I want to welcome you to the show. If you've never been here on a Wednesday, I kind of changed the format a little bit, took some advice, sat down with my team. Want to definitely give a shout out to the CFS Studios producers, developers, and today will probably be the first day that I'm actually going to be doing on Mondays and Wednesdays business pro tips. This gives you an opportunity to learn a new thing about business, hear my perspective. My perspective always may not be the perspective that you want to hear, but in today's economy, we always got to have what world view in. So I'm going to take a few minutes today to give you an introduction. Look forward to next week, and every Monday and Wednesday you can expect to have business pro tips. Now, you may say, well, what about the other show? Well, that's going to be on a different day. We're going to continue to go through as I continue to develop content that makes sense for you guys and for us. But today I want to give a anticipation of the word ants. These are 4 points I want to address today that will definitely destroy a business if you're not careful. Now, this is an acronym, and it's an acronym that has to stand for um, animated negative thought statements. I cannot tell you enough that if you're in business right now, you got to watch out for the ants. Now, think about the ants, and this acronym helps you out. Ants actually function with one queen, and they kind of go out there and they do what they have to do and they spread out. But at the same time, as an entrepreneur, this is one of the key factors you have to make sure that you understand. You cannot afford to ever be animated, which means that the internal conversation that you're having, even from any type of interaction that you're having on the outside of you, but any type of interaction that you're having and you become animated, it means you become emotional. And if you become emotional, it also means that you're going to have a one subjective thought process, a skewed view on what it is that you're dealing with. And you're also going to have to fight over the fact of the matter that we all know. This is the part where it makes it easy. And that's called the green poison. That's right. The green poison is dangerous. That's why we got to be careful not to be emotional. We got to be careful at all times that we do not allow ourselves, because we have to be in a position that we're the ones. Now, remember, if you are a person who is a CEO, an executive in your company, you're the one who actually should be calm at all times. Now, that doesn't mean on the inside it's always going to be that way. You can have a storm brewing. Again, a lot of us have this default system where we allow our expressions to be on our face. So when that expression shows up on our face, when someone's talking to us and our emotions hit, and we're like, all these emotions, you got to remember, calm and assertive. Got to be calm and assertive. And the reason is you have to make an informed decision to maintain the investment that you started. That's right. All of these businesses are actually investments. The goal of every investment is to retain earnings. And there's another term for it: increase your buying power. I want to be able to use $1 and buy $10 worth of goods. I want to be able to use $1 and buy $20 worth of goods. I want to use $1 and buy $30 worth of goods. So $1 has the buying power of 30, 20, or 10. But the goal is to get it from 1 to 1, then from 1 to 5, then from 1 to 10, then 1 to 20, 1 to 30. That's your goal as an entrepreneur. If you can't move your company in a way that you can actually increase your buying power, which is another way of saying that you're retaining earnings, and the buying power of the earnings you retain have a 10-to-1 ratio. $1 can go out and buy $10 worth of goods. Then you definitely want to enjoy this show today. Let's start off with being animated. Animated is a way that most of us, what happens because we're looking at our situation. You got to be careful. Watch out for the green poison. The green poison can make us feel like we're being ignored, we're being challenged. And it also starts to get in that green poison is that we start feeling envy. And if we're not being envy, we covetousness. We are so bad at comparing. Let me just explain to you something. Each owner that runs their business is not supposed to be the same. I'm not supposed to desire what the other owner has. I am only supposed to improve on the skills that I have, because the way I was designed is to operate this specific area. And as I operate this specific area, this would allow me to increase my skills, make better decisions, and move the company forward so I can not only have retained earnings, but increase the buying power of a dollar. A dollar got to buy $5 worth of goods. See, most of the times, if you work a regular job, you're going to use a 1-to-1 ratio. The $1 that I get from my employer is going to buy $1 or less. It could be, if you go to the dollar store, $1 is only going to buy, it can't afford to buy anything because $1 is represented by 75 cents. So you have to be able to use $1.25 to buy now a dollar. I mean, literally it's 25 cents more. So that'll tell you that when for most employees, they have a 1 or less ratio. But for an employer, you got to have a 1 and greater ratio. Retain earnings, more buying power. Here's the other one: negative talk. See, we know our emotions are going to get stirred. That's normal. If your emotions don't get stirred at one point or another while you're operating business, don't be alarmed. It's just that you've matured. But for everyone else that actually the emotions get provoked, you need to be alarmed because that's a warning sign that I am still undeveloped as a leader and I must be calm and assertive through this entire process. Once you know that is a warning sign when your emotions get provoked, the next thing you got to do is say this. Okay, warning number one. I got emotional. I got to clear my head because what's coming next? I got to know I'm animated at first. I'm going to see it in my body, going to see it in my mind. Then I'm going to say something negative. Once you get to that negativity, you got to know that the rest of your day is going to be it's hanging on a whim based on how you respond. It's going to be on a whim based on how you respond. So don't respond negative. You may have that negative talk, but don't give into it. How come? Because the next going to come from a negative talk is the thoughts. Here are these thoughts. The thoughts of how dare you. Anytime that you're operating a business and you find yourself in a situation where you know, and I know that you feel challenged, is somebody coming at me? They're not. What's happening is that being that I was animated, being that next thing I know, I got negative. Now I got these thoughts, and these thoughts are me talking to myself in a way that has actually caused me to be more angry. I used to say this all the time. Anytime I think about past relationships, and I'm putting two perspective relationships between a male and a female that I was dating in the past, and I'm gonna put relationships between a male or a female, which we were associates, but it was nothing on the inside of that like a relationship, other than the fact that we were doing business and we both had our own separate family. For those out there who want to be sarcastic, well, with that being said, when you have those type of situations and things don't go according to plan, it is very easy to be animated. It is most importantly very dangerous to be negative, and then the thoughts that come with it. I mean, we don't have the ability to be omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. So whenever you get to that point where you know what somebody's saying, that is a clear sign. You might go ahead and take the white flag, wave it in the air, and say, "I made a fundamental mistake. I'm now think I'm psychic." None of us are psychic. It's our emotions. We're animated. We're thinking negative. Our thoughts are running rampant. Here's the last one: statements. These are the four things you need to know. When are you moving from being animated to being negative, to having these internal thoughts that you start verbalizing the statements? That is the ants. Now, let me explain to you. When you think about ants and you got an apple, you got a banana, you got some Doritos, you got some cheese doodles, you got a sandwich, you're on a picnic, and you put that food down, all it takes is one ant. That's right, one ant to move into a negative position, which means they find it. And on the way back to the hive, they actually scent trail a little spray. They scent all the way back. The other ants find out and they get a GPS location and know exactly where the food is, and they follow that. Next thing you know, you look over about 20 minutes later and you have all of these ants. Well, those ants came from the statement from that other ant, and that was the signal that there's an opportunity over here. You need to make sure that these are warning signs for you. When you first get animated, it's a warning sign that I got to do better. I can't respond this way. I got to be calm and assertive. I need to make sure I maintain my cool. I'm not going to allow myself to get upset because I am the one who has to resolve matters and be the peacemaker, because my goal is to increase my biopower as I keep retained earnings. Because so the time I started this investment, the whole goal was to take $1. This is me now, $1, and have the buying power of 5. Now I get it. You can function like an employee where for $1 has the buying power less than a dollar. Like if you go to the dollar store, you got $1, it only has 75 cents worth of goods. So if you don't find something under a dollar there, especially if it's food here in Nebraska, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you can't buy nothing at the dollar store unless it's 50% off, because a dollar now can only buy $1.25 of goods. So that means that you lost 25 cents in that whole transaction. Well, that's what I wanted you guys to think about today. It's so naturally I can go on and on, but let's not beat a dead horse. Let's make sure we understand it. Watch out for the acronym of ANTS. There's being animated, being negative, having thoughts, and making statements. It'll affect you. And on today, the business pro tip is don't get caught up in it taken over by the ants. Until next Monday, you guys have a wonderful week.